In the heart of the Egyptian desert lies a mystery older than the pyramids. Scattered across the sands, glass, not man-made, not volcanic, but fused by unimaginable heat. No crater, no blast site, just glowing green remnants that shouldn't exist. What happened here? Was it an asteroid or something else? Some believe this glass holds the fingerprints of a technology lost to time, evidence of an atomic event in the ancient world. Science says impossible, but the desert doesn't lie. Beneath the blistering sun of the Sahara, where the dunes stretch endlessly and silence reigns, a curious substance lies scattered like forgotten treasure. It's not gold, not jewels, but glass, natural glass, pale green, translucent, and found in quantities unlike anywhere else on Earth. This is Libyan desert glass, one of the strangest materials ever discovered. Its existence raises more questions than answers. And for decades, scientists, historians, and conspiracy theorists have all asked the same thing: what created it? Discovered officially in 1932 by British geologist Patrick Clayton, the glass wasn't new to local nomads. For centuries, Bedouins had known of this strange, heavy glass in the desert. They called it the Stones of the Gods. But even they didn't know how it got there. In ancient times, a chunk of this glass was even used in one of the most famous artifacts of the ancient world, embedded in Tutankhamun's pectoral, right at the heart of the scarab beetle. The material is that old and that sacred. The glass itself is technically a type of tektite, formed by extreme heat that melts sand into a glassy substance. But here's where the mystery deepens. Most tektites on Earth are associated with known meteor craters. The impact sends a shockwave through the ground, generating the intense heat needed to vitrify sand. Yet in the case of Libyan desert glass, there is no crater. None. There's no impact site anywhere near the spread zone, and the glass is unusually pure, 99% silica. Its color and composition are unlike any other known tektites. To fuse sand into this kind of glass, the temperature must reach at least 1600 degrees Celsius, far hotter than any volcanic activity in the area. The heat needed to create that much glass over such a wide region would have to come from something explosive, something cataclysmic. And that's why the question remains, what could have caused such an event without leaving a mark? One theory is a thermal airburst, an asteroid or comet exploding just above the ground, like the Tunguska event in 1908 Siberia. But that would still leave evidence, treefall patterns, pressure wave remnants, or in this case, at least some form of blast zone. Here in the Libyan desert, nothing like that has ever been found. Another theory is a lightning storm of unprecedented intensity, but lightning simply doesn't reach the necessary temperatures. Some have pointed to ancient volcanism, but geologically the area is stable. There are no signs of calderas, lava flows, or volcanic glass. The event that created the Libyan desert glass appears to be unique, and therein lies the enigma. As researchers dig deeper, stranger ideas have surfaced. Could this be evidence of an ancient weapon, some sort of forgotten energy technology, an atomic-level explosion in prehistory? The idea might sound like science fiction, but proponents of the ancient advanced civilization theory point to myths of gods raining fire from the sky. Whole cities turn to ash, and ancient texts that describe radiant sky chariots. Might these stories preserve a dim memory of a lost high technology? Skeptics dismiss such claims, arguing there's no cultural or archaeological evidence of a civilization capable of such science. And yet, what if they weren't meant to leave evidence? What if what we're seeing is the scar left behind after something went catastrophically wrong? This documentary will take you deep into that mystery, combining modern science with ancient clues, geology with mythology, and fact with speculation. From the glass fragments themselves to the shifting sands of time, we'll investigate whether this desert glass is simply a geological fluke, or something far more extraordinary. We'll hear from experts, we'll explore competing theories, and most of all, we'll ask the question at the heart of it all. What kind of force can create glass in the middle of the desert, and why does no one remember it happening? Buried deep in the scorching dunes between the Gilf Kebir Plateau and the Egyptian-Libyan border lies a haunting relic of Earth's forgotten past, Libyan desert glass. This yellow-green, almost translucent material is found nowhere else in such quantity or purity. It's not a rare gemstone, nor is it volcanic glass like obsidian. It's something entirely different. To this day, no one knows exactly how it was formed. But one thing is certain. It was forged in fire hotter than anything naturally found on Earth's surface. The first documented mention of this glass traces back to the early 20th century, when British explorers crossing the Libyan desert stumbled upon strange glassy fragments glinting in the sand. They found more and more of it, scattered in a roughly 6,000 square kilometre region, as if it had rained from the sky. One of the earliest theories suggested that it was the result of a meteorite impact, but there was a glaring issue: no crater, no impact zone, no signs of typical meteorite debris. It was as if the glass simply appeared from a blast with no origin. Libyan desert glass is not only puzzling, but also stunning. It is 98% pure silica, far more pure than most naturally occurring glass, and some pieces are shockingly large, weighing over 25 kilograms. Even more compelling, it appears that ancient humans were aware of it. An ornamental scarab carved from the glass was found in the burial treasures of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. This hints at both its ancient value and a possible deeper history, a history written in fire. But here's where the mystery deepens. For glass to form, you need two ingredients: silica and heat, lots of heat. We're talking temperatures over 1,600 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than most volcanic eruptions and more intense than natural wildfires or lightning strikes. It's the kind of heat we associate with thermonuclear explosions or industrial furnaces. Technologies we only mastered in the 20th century. So how could this have happened thousands of years ago? The idea of an impactless explosion is not as far-fetched as it once seemed. Modern science has catalogued a few such events, like the 1908 Tunguska explosion in Siberia. That blast leveled 2,000 square kilometers of forest with the force of a 10 to 15 megaton bomb, but left no crater. Could something similar have happened over the Libyan desert, vaporizing whatever entered the atmosphere and turning the sand below into molten glass? Or was the event even stranger? Some geologists and independent researchers have proposed alternate theories, ones that brush up against the edge of mainstream science. Could there have been a natural geologic process we don't yet understand? A plasma discharge from the Earth's core? An ancient cosmic ray burst? Or, as a few daring voices whisper, could it have been man-made? There are legends. Whispers from ancient Berber and Egyptian oral history of a sky fire, of gods punishing the earth with waves of heat. Could these be mythologized memories of a real event, or perhaps clues left behind by civilizations far older than we currently acknowledge? As the sun blazes over the desert, the glass glows quietly, untouched by time. It's more than just a geological anomaly, it's a riddle baked into the bones of the earth itself. And as we trace its origins, we may uncover truths not only about ancient catastrophes, but about the possibility of lost knowledge, forgotten science, and the limits of what we think we know about human history. The glass waits. It does not explain itself. But maybe, if we dig deeper, we'll find the moment where science and myth collided, in a flash of light that turned sand to stone and history to mystery. In 1922, Howard Carter opened the most famous tomb in archaeological history, the final resting place of the boy king, Tutankhamun. Inside, among the dazzling gold and lapis, sat a curious item, a pectoral, an ornate chest ornament worn by royalty. At its center was a carved scarab beetle, not of the usual jade or turquoise, but a pale, glowing glass, the likes of which baffled researchers. Decades later, they would discover the truth. This was Libyan desert glass. Why would ancient Egyptians use a rare, unexplained material found hundreds of kilometers away in one of the most inhospitable deserts on Earth? More intriguingly, how did they know of its existence at all? The site where the glass is found is so remote it lies beyond the reach of Nile-based trade routes. There are no temples nearby, no ancient quarries, just dunes and heat. Yet somehow, the Egyptians not only found it, they valued it enough to place it on the chest of a god king. This wasn't random ornamentation. In Egyptian cosmology, the scarab represented rebirth and the movement of the sun. To embed one in this desert-born glass may have been a symbolic gesture, a resurrection through fire. Did the ancient priests understand the nature of the glass, or did they interpret it as divine? Some scholars believe this material, born of intense heat and sunlight, was seen as a piece of the sun itself. The solar connection would be both literal and mythological. In the carving, the scarab is smooth, almost fluid. Ancient lapidaries shaped the desert glass with extraordinary precision, despite its hardness and brittleness. That alone is remarkable, but it's the selection of the material that points to something deeper. This wasn't just aesthetic, it was spiritual. The glass was rare, radiant, and impossible to replicate. Could the ancient Egyptians have known its origin story? Or did they inherit the glass, passed down from even older sources, long before writing? Some theories suggest that nomadic traders or desert tribes may have collected the glass and brought it north to the Nile Valley. Others speculate that expeditions were sent into the desert specifically to retrieve the material, suggesting knowledge of its location and value. Either scenario requires an understanding of the glass as something worth extraordinary effort. That raises another question. Did the priests or artisans sense something powerful within the glass? Did they detect its unnatural origin? Modern geochemical analysis has shown that the glass is far purer than most natural silicate glass. Some samples even contain trace elements that suggest sudden exposure to extremely high energy, akin to a nuclear detonation. Could the priests of Amun have sensed this invisible potency? We may never know, but their reverence for it cannot be ignored. The placement of this desert glass in Tutankhamun's burial pectoral tells us that its symbolism ran deep. It may have represented eternal fire, divine transformation, or something more ominous, a relic of destruction worn as protection in the afterlife. Was it a token of life or a warning? In all of Egypt's long and storied history, there is no other recorded use of Libyan desert glass in a royal context. This makes the artifact even more unique and its meaning more elusive. It stands as a singular puzzle in a tomb already filled with mystery, and at its core, it carries the secret of an event no one can fully explain. Was this an ancient memory preserved in jewelry? A coded message passed through time? Or was it simply the most beautiful glass ever seen, chosen for a boy king who needed the favor of the gods? As we move deeper into this mystery, we must ask, if the Egyptians knew about the desert glass, did they know what made it? Libyan desert glass is one of the purest natural glasses ever discovered, up to 99% silica. That level of purity isn't just rare, it's almost impossible in natural conditions. What's more, the temperature required to form such glass exceeds 1600 degrees, far hotter than any volcanic activity or lightning strike known to this region. And yet, thousands of these shimmering yellow-green fragments lie scattered across the desert. Something burned hotter than anything we can account for. But what? For decades, geologists believed lightning might have been responsible. It's true that lightning can fuse sand into glassy formations known as fulgurites, but those are small, root-like structures, thin, spindly, and limited in scope. They don't form fields of glass that stretch over hundreds of square kilometers. The scale simply doesn't match, nor does the uniformity. Fulgurites are irregular and bubbly. Libyan desert glass is smooth, consistent, and massive. We're looking at a different kind of heat entirely. Another theory points to meteorite impact. When a high-speed rock from space slams into Earth, the shock and heat can fuse the surface into impact glass. This is seen at known craters like Weber and Meteor Crater in Arizona. And yes, there is a compelling case here. Some chunks of Libyan desert glass contain tiny inclusions of zircon that have decomposed into badleite, a transformation that only occurs above 1700 degrees. That's higher than the melting point of steel. Definitely the kind of temperature you'd expect from a cosmic collision. But here's where the mystery deepens. There is no crater, no smoking gun, no obvious scar in the landscape. The supposed impact site is invisible, or it no longer exists. Some scientists argue that the impact may have been an airburst, a high-altitude explosion like the one over Tunguska in 1908, which flattened trees over 2,000 square kilometers but left no crater. Could a similar event have occurred in prehistoric Egypt? If so, it would explain the heat, the wide area of glass distribution, and the lack of physical remnants. An airburst creates an intense downward shockwave, instantly vaporizing or fusing everything below. It's a terrifyingly efficient process, and it could explain the strange glass field. But even Tunguska left behind charred trees, a butterfly-shaped impact zone, and eyewitness reports. Libyan desert glass, by contrast, lies in an informational void. No folklore, no burn marks on the surrounding geology, no crater, just glass. This raises another possibility, one that pushes the boundaries of mainstream science. What if the heat wasn't natural? What if the ancient glass is the residue of some lost technology? Some have speculated, controversially, that the glass could be evidence of an ancient high-energy event not caused by nature, a weapon, an experiment, or even a power source gone wrong. It's speculative, yes, but in the face of so many anomalies, it cannot be entirely dismissed. Even physicist Dr. Louis A. Frank, known for his work with NASA, once entertained the idea that ancient cultures may have witnessed cosmic phenomena far more extreme than anything in our current records. Could they have survived and interpreted an airburst or thermal event as an act of the gods? The silence surrounding this event is almost as mysterious as the glass itself. There are no Egyptian records, no mythic tales of fire from the sky, only the stones and the artifact on Tutankhamun's chest, a riddle in molten form. Is it possible that the story of the glass predates Egypt entirely, that its formation occurred during a time of wandering tribes, before written language, before temples, a prehistoric cataclysm now lost to time? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear. The heat that created this glass was off the charts, beyond volcanoes, beyond lightning, beyond anything we accept as normal geology. It came fast, burned bright, and left behind a mystery glowing in the sands of time. If an explosion powerful enough to fuse the desert had happened in the time of the pharaohs, or even the proto-Egyptian tribes before them, surely someone would have remembered it. A fireball from the sky, a thunder without a storm, the sudden appearance of a glass field in an empty desert. These aren't the kinds of things people forget, and yet, when it comes to the origin of Libyan desert glass, history is mute. There are no hieroglyphs describing such a fire, no Mesopotamian tablets, no Berber legends or Coptic chants that speak of a celestial terror scorching the sand. The oral traditions of desert tribes speak of hardship, hunger, and the whisper of spirits in the wind, but not of glowing stones or sky fire. This silence is deafening. It's not just a gap in records, it's a black hole. Egypt was a culture obsessed with memory. They recorded harvests, eclipses, royal dreams, and floods. If a cosmic firestorm occurred within even 1,000 years of their existence, we would expect at least a whisper of it on a tomb wall or in a funerary scroll. But there is nothing, not a single glyph. So, what does this tell us? One possibility is that the event predated human settlement in the region. The desert may have been uninhabited, perhaps even uninhabitable, at the time of impact. Geological records suggest that this area once supported savanna grasslands, then slowly turned arid. If the glass formed during that transformation, it could explain why no one witnessed it. Another theory is even more unnerving. Perhaps people did witness it, but didn't survive to tell the tale. A large-scale airburst could have incinerated anyone within miles, a flash so intense it left only glass and ash. No legends, no survivors, just a sacred scar on the earth that future generations stumbled upon without context. This absence has led some fringe researchers to suggest deliberate concealment. That knowledge of the event, or of technology related to it, was erased, buried, or hidden by later civilizations. Could ancient elites have known more than they let on? Was the desert glass a relic of something they feared, revered, or tried to replicate? Skeptics will say that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. But in archaeology, silence often speaks louder than scripture. When an entire region lacks myth, memory, or explanation for something as strange as this, it demands we look beyond conventional frameworks. Perhaps we're asking the wrong questions. Maybe it's not about what was written down, but about what was deliberately left out. Could glass be a forbidden material? a thing known, feared, and then forgotten on purpose. There are ancient taboos around fire and stone in many desert cultures. Could this be one of them? Modern researchers have used satellite imagery and remote sensing to look for disruptions in the surrounding landscape. They found nothing. No crater, no impact streaks, no fallout layers. It's as if the glass simply appeared one day, strewn like spilled jewels across the sand. One compelling hypothesis is that the glass field represents the edge of a much larger zone, most of which is still buried under shifting dunes. If so, the silence may not be final. It may just be the pause before revelation. Whatever the truth, we are left with an enigma of location and omission. A phenomenon this violent and bizarre should have a story, but it doesn't. It just exists. Quietly, impossibly, waiting. And in that silence, the desert becomes a riddle, one we may never solve, not through language nor legend, but only through fragments of melted time. When British archaeologist Howard Carter opened the sealed tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922, he found treasures beyond imagination, golden thrones, ceremonial weapons, and jewels that dazzled the world. But among these riches, nestled in a chest ornament known as a pectoral, was something that seemed out of place, a carved scarab beetle, fashioned not from typical gemstones like lapis or turquoise, but from a yellow-green glass. It shimmered strangely, like frozen lightning. This was no ordinary gem. Later analysis revealed that the scarab was made of Libyan desert glass, the same mysterious substance found scattered hundreds of miles away in the Great Sand Sea. The glass in Tutankhamun's pendant is the earliest known human use of the material, and it raises a baffling question: how did the ancient Egyptians find it? And more intriguingly, did they know what it was? The location of the glass field lies deep within the Western Desert, in one of the most inhospitable regions on Earth. No known trade routes pass through it. No settlements are nearby. To collect enough glass to shape into a polished scarab would require either a chance discovery or a determined expedition. The precision of the carving and its placement in a royal pectoral suggest reverence, not randomness. Did the Egyptians consider it a divine stone? The scarab beetle itself was sacred in Egyptian culture, symbolizing rebirth, the rising sun, and the cycle of life and death. To pair such an important symbol with a material born of unimaginable heat and pressure may not have been a coincidence. Was it seen as a piece of the god's fire, a celestial gift fallen to earth? Some researchers speculate that desert nomads or Berber tribes may have discovered the glass centuries before Tutankhamun's reign and brought it east as a curiosity or sacred relic. Others propose that the Egyptian priesthood had long been aware of the material and possibly even knew the site of its origin, but kept it secret, treating the glass as a mystical resource reserved for royalty and ritual. The symbolism becomes even more layered when you consider the alchemical and cosmological beliefs of ancient Egypt. To them, certain stones weren't just beautiful, they were embodiments of cosmic power. Meteorites, for example, were revered as iron from the sky. Could Libyan desert glass have been treated similarly, as crystallized sunlight or the essence of the solar god Ra? And if so, was the placement of the scarab in Tutankhamun's burial pectoral a form of protection, a magical shield, a symbolic fusion of sky and earth to guide the young pharaoh through the afterlife? Even today, the carving of the glass remains a marvel. Despite being brittle and uneven in composition, the piece in Tutankhamun's necklace is symmetrical, polished, and flawless. No modern replicas match its quality without advanced tools. How did the ancient artisans work such a difficult material, and who taught them? Some fringe theorists suggest the Egyptians had access to esoteric knowledge, perhaps inherited from a forgotten civilization that had first-hand contact with the event that created the glass. A people who witnessed the sky burn and preserved their secrets in stone. While mainstream archaeologists remain cautious, the presence of Libyan desert glass in one of the most iconic tombs of the ancient world is undeniable. It is a clue, a golden thread linking pharaohs, desert winds, and a mystery that transcends time. Tutankhamun's pendant isn't just jewelry, it's a fossil of a forgotten event, a sacred relic, perhaps even a warning from a time when the sky fell to earth and left behind a scar only the sands remember. To create Libyan desert glass, the desert sand had to be heated to over 1,600 degrees Celsius, hotter than molten lava and far beyond the reach of any known prehistoric or ancient human technology. This brings us to a crossroads of inquiry. Could nature alone have forged these golden shards? And if so, what kind of natural catastrophe leaves behind a glass field large enough to rival modern industrial production? For decades, the leading theory was meteorite impact. The idea is simple. A space rock slams into Earth at incredible speed, unleashing a burst of heat and pressure so intense that it vaporizes on contact, instantly melting the quartz-rich sand beneath it. The molten material is thrown into the air, cools rapidly, and rains down as glass droplets. It's a process we've seen at other sites like tektites in Southeast Asia or impact glasses near the Reese crater in Germany. But Libyan desert glass doesn't quite follow that pattern. There's no crater. Despite extensive surveys of the surrounding area, no central impact site has ever been found. No bowl-shaped depression, no shock metamorphosed minerals, no buried iron fragments. The desert is flat, quiet, and undisturbed. If a meteor came down here, it left no calling card. The absence raises a critical doubt. So, alternative theories emerged. One proposes a high-altitude airburst, a kind of explosion in the sky. Picture the Tunguska event of 1908, where a meteor disintegrated in the atmosphere above Siberia, flattening trees for miles. No crater, but immense destruction. Could something similar have happened over the Egyptian desert thousands of years ago? If so, it would explain the scattered nature of the glass field. The pressure wave from a mid-air explosion could have flash-melted the sand across a wide area, especially if the ground was already superheated by desert temperatures. Some experiments even show that quartz sand exposed to the shockwave of an airburst can produce glass with similar chemical features, low water content, high purity, and traces of rare minerals like zircon and cristobalite. But this raises another question. If such airbursts are relatively common in cosmic terms, why don't we see more glass fields like this around the world? Why here, and only here, did the perfect storm of conditions occur? Some researchers suggest a unique composition of the local sand, nearly pure quartz with very little organic contamination. Combined with dry air, high elevation and relentless sun, this could have made the region a natural crucible, primed for ignition the moment cosmic fire touched it. Still, others push further. Could volcanic lightning, massive electrical discharges from ash clouds, have fused the sand, or a superbolt from a storm so violent it mimicked a nuclear blast? These are fringe ideas, but physics isn't impossible. Lightning can create fulgurites, glass tubes formed in soil when lightning strikes. Scale that up exponentially, and you begin to imagine the raw, terrifying energy that may have surged across the dunes. In every scenario, one truth remains: the glass was not made in peace, it was born in violence. Whether from the heavens or the earth, its origin lies in destruction, a cataclysm so intense it briefly turned sand into liquid fire. And what if that moment wasn't random? What if it was part of a cycle, one we don't understand yet? Some climatologists suggest that massive cosmic events like this may have happened more often than we think, especially in arid regions where the traces can vanish in the shifting sands. It's possible we're looking not at a one-time anomaly, but a recurring phenomenon, one that ancient people may have witnessed and feared, perhaps even worshipped. Because when the earth screams and the sky melts the sand, even gods seem small. In 1945, when the first atomic bomb was detonated in New Mexico, something unexpected happened. The desert floor turned to glass. Scientists later named it trinitite, a greenish, pitted material formed by the sand's exposure to extreme heat and radiation. It didn't take long for archaeologists and physicists to draw eerie comparisons. Trinitite and Libyan desert glass, separated by time, space, and purpose, shared striking similarities in appearance and chemical composition. That observation lit a fire under one of the most controversial theories in fringe science, that the Libyan desert glass might be the residue of an ancient atomic event. The suggestion is simple but wild. Long before modern history, an unknown civilization either harnessed or unleashed a form of advanced technology, possibly nuclear, and the glass is the only thing left behind. Supporters of this theory point to the purity of the glass. Unlike volcanic or impact glass, Libyan desert glass is almost entirely composed of le chatelierite, a form of nearly pure silica glass. It contains inclusions of zircon, which transform into badileite under extreme heat. These transformations mirror those found in nuclear test sites, where temperatures briefly rival those of the sun's surface. The question they ask is, could a natural phenomenon alone really create this level of purity, or are we seeing the ghost of something manufactured? This theory isn't without precedent in the world of alternative archaeology. In India's ancient texts, the Mahabharata and Ramayana describe divine weapons with devastating power, blinding flashes, melting metals, vaporized cities. In Mesopotamian myths, cities are punished with storms of fire. For decades, some researchers have speculated these weren't metaphors, but memories encoded in myth of real advanced catastrophes. Still, critics argue there's a giant gap between myth and isotope analysis. No traces of radiation have been found in the glass. If it was the result of a nuclear event, shouldn't we see lingering signatures, like we do at Trinity, Chernobyl, or Fukushima? Proponents counter that thousands of years of erosion, sandstorms, and thermal cycling could have neutralized the radioactive signatures. Others suggest the use of an advanced clean energy source, something like directed energy or even plasma-based weaponry, beyond what we can currently replicate or understand. Another curious point is the location. The glass lies near the Gilf Kabir Plateau, one of the most inaccessible places on Earth. It's a region with little rainfall, almost no vegetation, and virtually no evidence of long-term human habitation. If someone were to test a powerful technology, something potentially uncontrollable, this would be the place. Vast, empty, forgotten. And then there's the silence of history. No inscriptions, no ruins, no debris, just glass. A field of golden fragments, as if the event erased not only itself, but everything around it. So, we arrive at the speculative heart of this theory, that Libyan desert glass is not just a geological curiosity, but a monument to forgotten knowledge, a warning, a reminder, a mystery preserved in silica. Could it be the last footprint of a civilization that rose and fell before ours began? Or is that just a reflection of our own fears, of how easily we could leave behind the same legacy? If humanity vanished tomorrow, a future species might walk the deserts of Nevada or Kazakhstan and find fields of melted glass, wondering, like we do now, what happened here. In 1922, the world watched in awe as Howard Carter opened the sealed tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Inside the lavish burial chamber was a wealth of artifacts, gilded chariots, ceremonial daggers, golden masks. But amid the splendor, one object stood out. A pendant featuring a striking yellow-green scarab, unlike any other stone in the tomb. It was translucent, glossy, and almost alien. Decades later, tests confirmed what few expected. This scarab was carved from Libyan desert glass. Why would Egyptian artisans go to such extremes to obtain this rare glass from a hostile desert, hundreds of kilometers away? And more importantly, what did they believe it was? To the ancient Egyptians, stones weren't just ornaments, they were spiritual amplifiers. Each color and material had symbolic meaning. Green and yellow represented rebirth, the sun, eternal life. Was the desert glass more than just beautiful? Was it seen as divine? The pendant, found on Tutankhamun's breastplate, is shaped as a scarab, a symbol of Khepri, the god of the rising sun and resurrection. Placing it over the young pharaoh's heart suggests it wasn't just decorative, it was protective, powerful, perhaps even otherworldly. At the time of Tutankhamun's reign, around 1330 BCE, the desert was no friend to travelers. Reaching the glass fields meant crossing nearly 800 kilometers of harsh terrain, without GPS, satellite imaging, or even detailed maps. Caravans would have needed expert knowledge and significant resources. This wasn't casual collecting. Someone knew the glass was there. Someone went looking for it. And that raises a bigger question. How long had Egyptians known about the glass before the Boy King's time? The answer may lie in trade routes. While the Libyan desert was sparsely populated, nomadic Berber tribes known as the Tebu and Garamantes had intimate knowledge of the region's hidden paths. These people may have served as early couriers, bringing exotic goods like incense, rare stones, and desert glass to the Nile Valley in exchange for grain or protection. But the scarab amulet's importance goes deeper than trade. Some researchers argue that the glass's appearance in the tomb signals a cultural memory, a memory of something powerful that once happened in the desert. The stone may have carried more than aesthetic value. It may have carried a legend. We know from Egyptian texts that meteors, comets, and celestial phenomena were watched closely and interpreted as divine messages. Was the desert glass viewed as starborn, a piece of the gods fallen to earth? If so, it would explain why it was placed near the pharaoh's heart, a literal embodiment of eternal fire, solar rebirth, and divine transformation. But there's another possibility, more haunting. What if the ancients knew the glass was dangerous? Could they have suspected its origins weren't heavenly, but catastrophic? That the glass was not a gift from the stars, but the scar left by something destructive? In this light, the amulet becomes a symbol of containment. A warning, a memory carved in gold. Whatever the truth, the scarab's presence in Tutankhamun's tomb anchors the mystery of Libyan desert glass to one of history's most iconic figures. It suggests that even in the world's most advanced ancient civilizations, the glass was more than just beautiful. It was sacred, storied, and shrouded in enigma. We're left with an astonishing realization. This silent material, formed in the heart of a forgotten explosion, made its way across centuries and deserts, only to be placed over the heart of a god king, buried beneath the sands, waiting to be discovered again. For decades, the mysterious Libyan desert glass puzzled scientists just as much as it mystified the ancients. Its formation defied easy explanation. Was it a volcanic byproduct, the work of intense lightning, or something even more extraordinary? The truth, as it turns out, might lie somewhere between the heavens and the earth. The dominant theory, widely accepted but not without gaps, is that the glass formed during a meteorite impact, possibly around 29 million years ago. An extraterrestrial object, perhaps 100 meters in diameter, entered Earth's atmosphere at high speed and exploded above the desert surface. The result? Thousands of tons of yellow-green fragments scattered across a 6,000 square kilometer field. This makes Libyan desert glass a type of tektite, a natural glass formed from terrestrial debris during meteorite impacts. Similar fields exist elsewhere, Australasia, the Czech Republic, North America, but none are as pure or ancient as this. Libyan glass, with its stunning clarity and minimal impurities, challenges even the tektite label. Why is it so clean? Why do some fragments contain bubbles and swirls that look like they formed slowly, not in the instant violence of an impact? And then there's the impact crater problem. There isn't one. No definitive crater has ever been found near the Libyan glass field. A few candidates, like the Kibera structure, have been proposed, but none offer conclusive evidence. This has led some researchers to speculate that the event wasn't a traditional impact, but an aerial burst, a comet or meteor exploding high in the atmosphere, like the Tunguska event of 1908. In that Siberian blast, millions of trees were leveled by an explosion equivalent to a 10 to 15 megaton bomb, yet no crater remains. Could something similar have happened over the Libyan desert, melting the sand with searing wind and plasma from above? This might explain the even spread of glass and lack of deformation in the surrounding terrain, but it still leaves questions unanswered. Why are some chunks found in areas seemingly untouched by such events? Why is the glass found so close to the surface, not buried beneath layers of sediment? Alternative theories emerge at the fringe. Some propose an ancient nuclear event, not caused by humans, but perhaps by natural fission reactions like those observed at Oklo and Gabon, Africa. While this sounds sensational, it lacks supporting evidence, no radioactivity, no isotopic anomalies. Still, the idea persists in some circles, pushed by those who see patterns where others see coincidence. Another possibility gaining quiet traction is that we're looking at multiple formation events. Some geologists suggest that Libyan desert glass may not all come from one moment of catastrophe. Instead, it may represent several overlapping events, cosmic, volcanic, even electrical. Over millions of years, the region may have experienced extreme temperatures repeatedly. The glass, then, is a mosaic of ancient disasters. The debate continues in journals and laboratories, with new tools like laser ablation mass spectrometry and infrared thermoluminescence, providing glimpses into the glass's secrets. But so far, no theory fits all the facts. Every answer leads to more questions. In a way, the scientific mystery mirrors the ancient awe. Both the priests of Egypt and modern physicists stand in the same place, facing a glowing enigma that refuses to fully explain itself. Whether born of fire from above or forged in the Earth's own fury, the Libyan desert glass resists classification. It is a relic of destruction, a survivor of deep time, and perhaps one of nature's rarest experiments, where sand, sky, and energy combined in perfect, incomprehensible violence. Long before the Libyan desert glass was named or studied, the ancient world may have already known of it, though not through science, but through stories. Across civilizations, myths speak of fire from the sky, gods wielding solar weapons, and deserts ignited in flame. Could these be distorted memories of a real cosmic cataclysm? A fiery event that shaped not just the land, but the legends? In Egypt, texts like the Book of the Heavenly Cow describe the sun god Ra punishing humanity with divine fire, sending his eye, often portrayed as a blazing disk, to scorch the earth. The result? Mass destruction, desolation, and a reordering of the cosmos. Scholars traditionally interpret this as symbolic, an allegory of divine wrath. But others wonder if it's a distant memory of something seen in the sky, a comet, a meteor, an explosion. Move eastward, and the Vedic texts of India speak of Agni, the god of fire, descending from the heavens in blinding radiance. Some hymns describe the fire that burns without wood, a curious phrase for ancient times. Similarly, the Mahabharata tells of a weapon that made the sun shine with the power of 1,000 suns, instantly melting everything it touched. Was this pure myth or a cultural echo of real celestial trauma? In Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh recounts storms of flame sent by the gods to punish hubris. The Sumerians were sky watchers, chroniclers of astronomical phenomena. A meteor blast large enough to light the horizon or scar the desert could have been passed down as divine retribution. And in the Apocalypse of Enoch, a mysterious work excluded from biblical canon, we read of stars that fall and burn the earth, terrifying visions that eerily resemble airbursts or impacts. What if ancient priests or seers had seen desert glass, green, strange, shimmering in the sun, and asked, what fire made this? With no tools for geology, they would turn to gods. The glass might have become a sacred object, an artifact of divine power. We know it was used in ceremonial blades, even in the burial of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Did the priests believe it was skyborne? Among the nomadic Tuareg tribes who still roam near the desert glass fields, there are whispered tales of the stones of the sky, cursed ground where lightning walks without clouds, where metal tools warp and fires will not burn. While these are modern stories, they may preserve fragments of ancient fears passed down orally for generations. Then there's the question of forgotten civilizations. If there was a tribe or culture that witnessed the desert glass forming, would they not have recorded it in art, symbol, or myth? Petroglyphs in parts of the Sahara depict spirals, radiant discs, and humanoid figures with flame-like halos. Interpretation is difficult, but it adds to the atmospheric weight. This was a place of fire, of transformation, of terror. In modern times, Carl Sagan famously speculated that myths often reflect cosmic events, asteroid strikes, planetary alignments, even supernovae, filtered through the limited understanding of early peoples. The desert glass may not be unique. It may be one of many points where cosmic history brushes against human memory. So, we return to the question, did the ancients remember what happened here? We can't know for sure, but the presence of this unnatural glass in ancient tombs, the global myths of fire from the heavens, and the reverent silence surrounding the Libyan sands, it all suggests that the event left more than physical marks. It burned into human imagination. Even today, the glass carries an aura of the sacred, whether as a meteorite relic, God-forged talisman, or natural wonder, it invites awe. And in that awe, we see the thread that connects us with those long gone, the impulse to understand the incomprehensible by turning it into a story. Libyan desert glass isn't just a strange geological phenomenon. To some, it's a conduit, a vessel of stored energy forged in an instant of unimaginable heat. But could it still hold a trace of that moment? Could this glass born from chaos have properties we've yet to fully understand? Some researchers and even more fringe theorists believe so. Scientific studies have revealed that the glass is not only unusually pure, but also exhibits structural anomalies. It's mostly silica, yes, but within its clear yellow depths are streaks of cristobalite, formed only at extreme temperatures. Some specimens even show microscopic planar deformation features, the kind typically associated with high-impact shockwaves. These aren't just marks of origin, they may be fossilized echoes of energy. Electromagnetic scans have shown that certain pieces of the glass respond unusually to changes in magnetic fields. They resonate, they hum faintly under extreme laboratory conditions. While this isn't evidence of stored energy in any sci-fi sense, it has intrigued scientists and inspired mystics alike. Is it coincidence or a relic with lingering power? The idea of storing energy in stone is ancient. In China, jade was believed to trap spiritual essence. In South America, quartz and obsidian were thought to absorb heat and emotion. Libyan desert glass, with its golden glow and cosmic birth, seems perfectly designed to inspire that same reverence. And it did. Tutankhamun's scarab is a perfect example. Why use desert glass in a royal emblem? Was it simply beautiful, or believed to be imbued with celestial force? Modern crystal theorists have taken things further. Some claim the glass can influence human biofields, enhance dreams, even affect time perception. None of these claims are scientifically verified, of course, but they mirror a much older idea, that certain materials shaped by extraordinary conditions retain something of their origins, a kind of memory. We might scoff today, but ancient cultures weren't wrong to treat the material with awe. After all, this was glass created not by human hands, but by an apocalyptic event, a brush with space itself. Holding it would have felt like touching a piece of another realm. Even now, when you pick up a shard of it, there's something unnerving about its perfection. It's smooth, sharp, bright, and silent, like a message encoded in silence. Satellite surveys of the Libyan desert have revealed anomalies too, subtle shifts in the magnetic field near large concentrations of the glass. Nothing conclusive, nothing dramatic, but again, it adds to the mystery. Why does this desert feel different? Why did ancient caravans avoid these areas, marking them as cursed or sacred? Perhaps it was the heat, perhaps it was something else. And then there are modern metaphysical claims. Some New Age thinkers believe that the Libyan desert glass is programmable, that like quartz it can be infused with intention. Whether or not this is true, what matters is the belief itself, a belief that the material is alive in some way, that it listens. The real energy perhaps isn't inside the glass, but in the mind. It's the reaction we have to holding something ancient, alien, and unexplained. A psychological spark, a resonance between the known and the unknowable. In a world where nearly every element of nature has been catalogued and classified, the desert glass defies easy explanation. It isn't just a mineral, it's a question mark, hard, brilliant, and quietly humming with the energy of the past. So, does it still hold power? If not in volts or currents, then in awe, in mystery, in the very human feeling that some things are too strange to be just accidents. In that way, yes, it holds immense power. In the sands of the Great Sand Sea, something happened that mirrors the aftermath of a nuclear detonation. Blistered terrain, fused minerals, and temperatures far exceeding what volcanoes or wildfires can produce. For decades, this anomaly sat quietly in geology textbooks. But in the post-World War II era, when scientists first observed the glassy remnants of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a strange parallel emerged. Could Libyan desert glass be evidence of an ancient atomic event? That question has become a lightning rod for theorists, fringe historians, and skeptics alike. Conditions normally associated with nuclear explosions, meteorite impacts, or thermonuclear weaponry. In Hiroshima, trinitite glass formed in seconds from intense heat. It has a similar texture and purity to Libyan desert glass. The resemblance is uncanny, but here's the problem. There's no impact crater, no definitive trace of an incoming meteorite. And while some argue that a low-angle or airburst event, like the Tunguska explosion, could explain it, no conclusive shockwave pattern has ever been mapped. Some scientists have suggested lightning strikes on sand dunes, but again, the consistency and scale don't match. This mystery created fertile ground for the ancient atomic theory. Proponents point to ancient Indian texts, the Mahabharata and Ramayana, which describe divine wars fought with lightning weapons, iron bolts, and winds hotter than 1,000 suns. While many historians consider these metaphors, others wonder, could these stories be veiled memories of real events? In the 1970s, the theory gained traction among ancient astronaut enthusiasts. If an advanced civilization existed, or visitors arrived from the stars, could they have detonated a weapon here? Was the glass the residue of forgotten science, or an accident of ancient warfare? Even Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, was once rumoured to have said, "In ancient times, people already knew what we only now have discovered." Though the quote is apocryphal, it shows how deep this theory has penetrated modern myth. Mainstream science remains firm. No radioactive isotopes typical of nuclear detonations have been detected in the area. No plutonium, no enriched uranium, no cesium-137. The glass is clean, geologically speaking. This alone discredits any theory involving modern-style nuclear tech. Still, some anomalies remain. Elevated thorium content in a few glass samples, scattered magnetic particles, irregular layering patterns that don't fully match known volcanic or lightning-induced glass. These details are not evidence, but they are questions, loose threads that keep the mystery alive. We must consider the human element here. The Cold War era was a time of paranoia, secrecy, and apocalyptic imagination. The idea that ancient civilizations might have unleashed the same destruction we now wield was both terrifying and seductive. It placed our modern fears into a deeper historical context, suggesting that we are not the first to stand on the edge of annihilation. So, what's the truth? Most likely, the glass was formed by a natural event, a meteor airburst or a rarely seen geologic combustion, something unique to the desert's harsh environment. Yet the atomic hypothesis refuses to die, not because of its scientific merit, but because of what it says about our imagination, about our fear that we are not alone, or that history is more dangerous than we remember. The Libyan desert glass is a canvas. On it, we project our myths, our science, and our secrets, and in doing so, we reveal more about ourselves than about the desert. Whether born from the sky or from a forgotten war, the glass is a relic of intensity, a moment frozen forever in the heart of the Sahara. Libyan desert glass is not just a geological anomaly, it's a material, harder than steel, nearly as clear as topaz, and untouched by time. The ancient Egyptians didn't merely stumble upon it, they prized it. In King Tutankhamun's tomb, nestled among treasures of gold and lapis, archaeologists discovered a scarab amulet, its body carved from the yellow-green desert glass. This wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't filler material, it was central to the piece, seated proudly in the heart of the pectoral. The symbolism is unmistakable. The scarab, a sacred creature representing transformation and rebirth, carved from a substance birthed in heat and fire, perhaps even a celestial event. How did the ancient artisans understand this glass? Did they know it was born of sky fire, or did they believe it was a divine material, a gift from the gods themselves? Some scholars suggest they recognized its otherworldly origin, even if they couldn't explain it in scientific terms. In that era, lightning, meteors, and stars were gods, and the glass, a remnant of divine touch. What's more intriguing is the consistency with which this material shows up, not just in jewelry, but in ceremonial blades, inlays, and rumored religious artifacts lost to time. It wasn't common. It wasn't mined like quartz or copper. It had to be gathered. And not just anywhere, only in the most remote reaches of the Libyan desert, where sandstorms, scorpions, and sheer isolation make travel perilous even today. There are theories, still speculative, that the ancients may have organized expeditions to harvest the glass. Some hieroglyphic inscriptions mention journeys into the Sea of Sand, or Land of the Gods. Could these be cryptic references to expeditions westward toward the glass fields? There are even maps etched into stone in some Nubian regions that oddly resemble the topography near the known desert glass sites. Coincidence? Or faded memory? Even more provocative are the myths that circulate among Bedouins and Saharan tribes. Some speak of sky iron or sunstones that glow at night. Others tell of sleeping fire hidden beneath the sands. These tales echo the ancient reverence for the material, perhaps a cultural echo of knowledge lost long ago. But could they have tried to harness the glass? In modern terms, Libyan desert glass is a natural insulator and conductor, depending on its crystalline phase. Could its properties have made it more than ornamental? There are wild theories suggesting it was used in early lenses or solar amplification. Some suggest it was ground into powders for alchemical rituals, or even for spiritual energy conduction in temple rites. While there's no hard evidence, there's just enough smoke to suggest fire once existed. In 2013, researchers using ground-penetrating radar near the glass fields discovered linear stone patterns, possibly ancient causeways or markers. One team posited they may have aligned with celestial events or guided travelers to glass-rich zones. If so, the ancients didn't just know about the glass. They systematized it, studied it, respected it. Even if they didn't fully grasp the physics behind its formation, they may have recognized its power. Not technological power, but spiritual, symbolic, material born from chaos, from destruction. And in a civilization obsessed with eternity, transformation, and balance between worlds, this mattered deeply. What's truly haunting is the idea that they knew something we've forgotten, that in an age without satellites or science labs, they still recognized meaning in materials modern man overlooks. Maybe the ancients didn't build a power station in the desert. Maybe they built something more lasting, a legacy of wonder. And in honoring the glass, they passed down a clue, a whisper from a world that still believes stone can speak. As we approach the final moments of this journey, we step into the shadows of possibility, where science, speculation, and ancient memory collide. Could the Libyan desert glass be not a product of nature, but of design? The result of a forgotten weapon, a vanished technology? It's a theory fringe to some, but irresistible to others. Here's what we know. Libyan desert glass can only be formed at temperatures exceeding 1,600 degrees Celsius, hotter than any campfire, kiln, or volcano in the region. This has led many mainstream scientists to settle on the meteor impact hypothesis. But there's one major problem: no crater, no impact site, no known remnant of a meteor that could have unleashed that kind of devastation. So what if it wasn't a meteor? What if it was something else? Something intentional? Some researchers, particularly in the fringe fields of archaeophysics, suggest the glass may be the residue of a directed energy release, something akin to an ancient atomic event. Not a nuclear bomb as we understand it, but perhaps a prototype of lost energy manipulation, capable of flash-melting sand across kilometers in a single pulse. The glass field is vast, over 6,000 square kilometers. That's not a localized burn, that's a saturation, a field of fire. And the fact that some of the glass is fused in layers with overlapping waves and internal bubbles hints at a sudden blast, not a prolonged heat source. Could this have been an ancient test site, a weapon misfiring, a power surge from something no longer understood? In the 20th century, Scientists noticed that Libyan desert glass shares striking similarities to trinitite, the glass formed at the first nuclear test in New Mexico. Both exhibit the same shocked quartz, the same vitrification, the same internal swirl patterns. The resemblance is uncanny. And it's not just Egypt. Similar anomalous glass fields exist in other parts of the world: India, Mongolia, even parts of Australia. Some legends from the Indian epic Mahabharata speak of blinding lights, citywide incinerations, and ash that fell for days. In Mongolia, tribal lore speaks of fire from the sky that boiled the rivers and made the earth glow. Are these myths, or collective memories of events too traumatic to forget? Critics dismiss the theory, citing the lack of infrastructure, materials, or knowledge in ancient times to create such devastation. But that's just it. What if the knowledge existed and then was lost? What if it wasn't our ancestors but a different culture altogether, an earlier, forgotten civilization erased by the very tools it used? There's also the possibility of natural resonance, high-frequency energy released through tectonic or cosmic interference. Scalar energy theorists suggest the Earth itself can sometimes act as a capacitor. If discharged through planetary alignment, solar flares, or magnetic anomalies, it might cause a surface-level energy burst. Not technology, but nature's fury. Still, the result is the same: glass. Even now, the Libyan desert remains strangely quiet in electromagnetic readings. Satellite data shows anomalies, mild, persistent fluctuations in magnetic fields. Is it a remnant, a scar, a warning? If it was a weapon, who wielded it and why? Was it an accident or a final strike in a forgotten war? Did it protect a kingdom that no longer exists, or destroy it? These are questions we may never answer definitively. But the evidence in the sand speaks, if we choose to listen. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not the glass itself, but our refusal to imagine big enough, to consider that history isn't just what survived, but what was buried, hidden beneath the dunes, waiting for us to ask the impossible. As the final grains of sunlit sand slip through the hourglass of our journey, we stand at the edge of something far greater than glass. The Libyan desert glass, silent and unmoving, is not just a mystery of geology or a footnote in archaeology. It is a mirror, polished not by hands but by heat, time, and wonder. We have explored every known explanation: natural, cosmic, artificial. We followed the winds of legend and sifted through the ashes of ancient fire. And still the glass remains, unchanged, unyielding, unspeaking, a perfect enigma. But in that silence lies a message, one far more profound than any answer. The Libyan desert glass is a physical record of forces beyond our full comprehension. Whether it was formed by a meteoric shock, an atmospheric burst, or the deliberate hand of a forgotten people, it reminds us that Earth has stories written in its crust, stories that predate our memory and defy our assumptions. It is also a reminder of humility, of how fragile our modern understanding truly is. We live in an era of satellites and AI, of quantum theory and space telescopes, yet a simple piece of yellow-green glass lying in the sand can stump our brightest minds. It asks questions that transcend science. Who came before us? What did they know? What did they leave behind? To the ancients, this glass was sacred. The pharaohs used it in death, in protection, in divinity. They placed it on Tutankhamun's chest over his heart, as if to say, "Take this into the afterlife. This is not a man." That reverence was earned, not because they understood the glass, but because they didn't, because they sensed its power, its strangeness. Today we stand in the same place as those ancient priests, uncertain, awed, staring into something beautiful and unexplained. We've tried to measure it, map it, model it, but maybe it was never meant to be solved. Maybe the glass isn't an answer. It's a question, timeless, eternal. And that may be its greatest value, because in asking that question again and again, we ignite something elemental in ourselves. Curiosity, the need to know, to remember, to imagine. That's the legacy of the Libyan desert glass, not the event that created it, but the spark it continues to light in us. Perhaps somewhere beneath the dunes there are still clues, fragments of civilization waiting to be found, buried knowledge waiting for the right storm, the right dig, the right question. But even if we never find them, even if the truth remains buried forever, the glass will endure. A relic, a warning, a beacon. It lies still in the desert, unchanged by time, undisturbed by certainty. And though the winds may cover it again and the world may forget its glow, it will still be there. Quietly asking, are you ready to see what came before you? Because in the end, the greatest discoveries are not in the objects we study, but in the possibilities they awaken. And so, we leave the shimmering sands of the Libyan desert behind, not with answers, but with echoes. The glass remains where it has for millennia, unmoved, unclaimed, undeciphered. In our pursuit of its origins, we have uncovered something perhaps even more compelling than truth, the depth of our own unknowing. This is more than geology, more than archaeology, more than any one theory. The Libyan desert glass is a silent monument to deep time, older than empires, older than myth, older even than the questions we dare to ask. Whether born of celestial fire, a forgotten technology, or nature's own fury, it now belongs to something greater, the mystery that connects all lost things. What began as a search for evidence of an ancient atomic event has instead illuminated the fragile threshold between the known and the unknowable. This glass is not merely a relic of the past, it's a reminder that the universe still holds secrets, and always will. The more we look, the more we find. But the more we find, the more we realize how little we truly understand. And isn't that what makes the mystery beautiful? The Libyan desert glass reflects more than sunlight. It reflects us, our curiosity, our capacity for awe, our hunger to make sense of the world and the worlds that came before. It reflects our myths, our fears, and our limitless imagination. We sought the science behind the phenomenon, and we found fragmented clues. But what if the real power of the glass lies in its resistance to certainty? It remains unclassified not because we've failed, but because it invites us to continue searching. It is a puzzle without a box, a message without a sender, a spark that ignites again each time someone dares to ask, what if? Out here, in the vast stillness of the desert, the glass teaches us something primal, that there are places where answers may never come, and that in those places we meet a different kind of truth, wonder. It's the same wonder that once drove ancient hands to carve temples into stone, to watch the stars for omens, to build monuments aligned with solstices. It's the same wonder that fueled the myths of Atlantis, the sky gods, and lost continents. We stand in their shadow now, not knowing, but yearning to know. That too is our legacy. So when you next walk a familiar path, or gaze at a star-filled sky, or hold a stone in your hand and ask where it came from, remember the glass. Remember the quiet field of green fire hidden in Egypt's most forgotten corner. And remember that there are still places on this planet where the past glows, literally, waiting for someone to see it. We may never know what force melted the desert. We may never confirm whether ancient humans witnessed a cosmic detonation or wielded a power now lost to time. But one thing is certain, the desert remembers. And as long as the glass glows beneath the sun, so will the mystery. This isn't the end of the story. It's an invitation to keep asking, to keep wondering, and to never stop chasing the shimmer of the impossible. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious.